All right, welcome. This is the Audit. This is on Warner Bucks, and I know you're looking for Purtis, but he is not here today. He's actually in the background helping us out. And right now we have a special guest today, and this is M- Miriam.
I'm Mimi.
Mimi.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Mimi, and she's helping us. Like I said, you're used to Purtis, but Purtis is in the background. He's still there. We need him, but we're talking about mental health, and what happens a lot of times with mental health. We don't talk to everybody. We hadn't had a ladies' perspective on here, and so a lot of times we talk about these things, and they affect everybody, not just the male, but also the female. So, Mimi, since you're being here, when I say mental health, what do you think about when I say mental health?
When we think about mental health, we just obviously think about the state of mind that you're in. Obviously, all of the psychological factors that may be taking a part on what you think at night. You know, sometimes when we go to sleep at night, everything that's weighing us down throughout the day, it comes when we're alone. So, how healthy are you in your mind? Because I think my uncle used to tell me, you're going to be with yourself all day long.
Right.
So you can have, issues with everybody else outside, but if you got issues inside with your own self, that's the real issue, the real problem.
Okay. So when we talk about mental health, do you think that affects, not only just like the community as a whole, but as the black community? What do you think? Do you think people work with their mental health? Do you think people concerned about their mental health?
Honestly, I don't think mental health is as big of an issue or a big of a priority as it should be, especially within the black community, because I come from a church background where we think that we can pray everything away, which I definitely believe we can, go to the Lord in prayer. But it's sometimes you need someone physically that you can talk to your problems about, and because we're rooted in the church, we don't really think we should tell our business. That's the main thing with therapists. People think, oh, I don't want to tell nobody all of my business. But that's the point of a therapist, to be this unbiased, kind of person that is here to hear everything that you have to say and that you're going through. So if you don't go and let it out, you're building it all up inside, and then your mental health begins to drain a little bit.
Okay, so it's kind of like this guy they was talking about that jumped over. You saw the guy that jumped over with the judge, and he jumped in.
Oh, yeah.
Seen that?
I
And
did
so
see that.
they were saying that mental health was a thing, and so in the black community, like I said, you brought up like about church and everything like that. And so as we see a decline, I see a lot of decline in people actually going to church. Like when I was growing up, we had Miss Purtis in that generation we had no choice. But as I see people going more toward, they're saying they're spiritual, they get into these things, and basically what they're saying is that I have a form of godliness, but I don't really have to go to church. And so with people getting away from that, and we're saying that hey, we give it to God, what are we actually doing? So I kind of see a increase in depression, and I have a decrease in anxiety, and and people consider that normal. So have you ever experienced any kind of depression? And I'm not saying it. And people, when you say depression, anxiety, say mental health, then they're like, I'm not crazy. I ain't crazy. Ain't nothing wrong
That
with
be
me.
the thing too. Nobody wants to be labeled as crazy, but I mean, you ain't got to be crazy to be a little dealing with stuff. I mean, we all go through stuff. Think about just death. I mean, this is something that we all have to face when our family members pass away. How do I deal with that grief? And it doesn't make you crazy to miss somebody. You know what I'm saying? So that's something you need to be able to talk about. Hey, I really miss my grandma. I don't know what to do with this feeling. It's really left a hole in my heart. How do I overcome this? How do I deal with this grief? Grief will do that to people. It will take people into those depressive states. And I would say that may be something that when you ask me, have I ever, had those type of feelings? Right now, I would say I just lost my auntie not too long ago, and I would say she's the first person that was really close to me that I lost. So if people lose people all the time, and then when it happens to other people, you're like, oh, my condolences. You don't really know what to say. And then when you go through it yourself, you're like, okay, what is this feeling that I'm feeling right now? I mean, this hole in my heart, how do I get over this? And then it's this constant, reminder that they're not coming back, and then how do you deal with those feelings? So I definitely feel like that's when mental health should really be important, because that's something that you can't really get. It's not a quick fix. It's not a quick solve. So I feel like grief has been something that I've been dealing with a lot recently, yeah.
And grief is a thing, and that's one of the things me and Purtis talked about as well. Grief is most definitely a thing, and a lot of times in the black community, we're so kind of focused on moving on with our life. It's not even that we're trying to move on ourselves, but life has a way of continuing to move on. It's like, I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to go do these things. And after those 3 days they give you at work is over, guess what? I still kind of deal with this grief. And a lot of times it doesn't pass. And so you got different stages of grief. And a lot of times people think they're linear. I might blame. I might be angry. I might have all these other kind of feelings. And there are stages. And if a person doesn't tell you, hey, you're in this stage and it's okay. And one thing is, like, even with your aunt, you have to be allowed to grieve. And I'm saying that is that I'm sorry to hear about your auntie.
Thank you.
A lot of times, people, we give the things and we sit there and we have that community once a person passed, those 2 or 3 days. But once it's over, a lot of times we don't have anybody. And so when I'm sitting alone and I'm not thinking about it, I don't deal with it. So I'm going to give you this thing you can do for grief. One of the things you can do is that you tell her story. You know what I'm saying? So you tell her story, and so you tell other people about it. And so when you think about it, and that's a way of you dealing with people, dealing with your grief, but also letting people know who your auntie was. And you tell her what she liked to do, and you do the things, tell them how she became your aunt and why she's your favorite aunt. And then what I did, like when my grandma passed, I would do things she did. My grandma liked to cook, and she was a cook. And so when she died, I got a cooking bowl, and I got a mixer. And what I do every once in a while, I cook a cake. And I know my grandma's not there. I say, hey, Grandma, I'm going to cook a cake. And I cook a cake, and I think about my grandma. You know what I'm saying? And every time I get a chance to, I tell stories about my grandma. And I say, hey, Grandma, we're finna do this thing. And it makes me deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a beautiful thing. And we never but I honor them. And another way I do, I honor them. What would Grandma say if I was doing this work? What would my grandma say if I was sitting here moaning about her? Now, she wants me to remember her.
Right.
But she won't want me to be sad about her. You know what I'm saying? And so I think about that sometimes when I get in that thing and I say, hey, Grandma, I'll do some things to honor you. And when I do this, I'm going to think about you. And I'm going to let people know about you. And that's a way I kind of deal with grief. And that's a really good way to look at it.
That's really good, especially when, like you said, we all go through it. And some people don't hear those type of things. Like what you just told me, everybody doesn't get to hear that.
Right.
And then so to come from a place where it's like not really it's kind of frowned upon to kind of tell what you're really going through. If I don't tell somebody that I'm going through this, I would have never gotten that piece of advice that I needed.
Right.
So that's why I feel like mental health and therapy is so good, especially when, we deal with grief, but at the same time, we could deal with something else. My auntie died, and then I could have lost my job the next week.
Right.
Or, you know what I'm saying, I could have broke up with my boyfriend.
Right.
All of these things happen at one time, so that's why mental health should be such a priority, because your mind is not a one-way street. It's so much going on up here.
Right.
This is going on, this is that. If you're not taking care of that, then what? Your health.
Well, it'll shoot out. If you don't take care, I don't mean to cut you off. If you don't take care of it'll take care of you eventually. If you don't deal with it, it's gonna deal with you. And then what happens is I always kind of like give it an example of like having a kettle that you have on the stove. Eventually it'll boil over. When it boils over, and it gets on, not the tended. So the tended part of the kettle being hot was to be able to provide you something that was good. But when it spills out, it gets on people that is unresigned. And so guess what? I end up hurting the people that's closest to me when I don't do it. It's not going to just hurt you. It's going to hurt your relationship. It's going to hurt other people. If I'm not depressed and I'm digging into myself, and guess what will happen? When I go into my shell, then other people are not able to get in as well. So I got this boyfriend. I got this friend at work. I can't be there for them because I'm in my shell. And if I don't learn about it, then I don't help. And so I always tell people who are in depression, 2 is better than 1. And sometimes to lay somebody else in to help and to share it. And now I'm not holding all these things in by myself. But the thing about the reason counseling is so good is because a lot of times we're not taught that. We're not taught how to deal with depression. We're not taught how to deal with grief. We're not taught how to communicate. We basically communicate and we deal with things based on what we saw. And so guess what? If I had an absent parent, I had a parent that's just out there. How tough the world is now, guess what? They just working. Right. And so when I see them, I'm so glad to see my mom and my dad, but I'm not really able sometimes to talk to them and learn about how to communicate. And when I'm communicating with them, so basically what things that need to be done. And so we're not talking. So when I grow up and I never learn to conversate or deal or talk about my issues, then when I get in a relationship, I'm still not learning how to talk about my issues. And so when things affect me, it's just on me. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know that. And so when you go to a counselor, what a counselor does, they're able to kind of give you these skills. And all a counselor does is one thing they do is make you aware. They give you awareness and they give you tools. But if I don't utilize those tools, then it's still on me. Right. It's like if I come in, I give these examples. I give a lot of examples on me. I give a lot of examples. And so what I say is like if I come in and I give you some tools to cut your grass, I might give you some scissors, I might give you a lawnmower, I might give you a weed eater, I might give you a riding lawnmower. But if you decide you don't want to use the riding lawnmower to cut the grass, you decide to use the scissors, it's going to take a longer time to do it. But you can also decide, I'm not going to use any of those things and sit there and fuss about your grass being cut.
Right.
But it's up to you to use the tools. And so a counselor can't fix you. It's not a miracle, but they give you tools and they make you aware.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point when I heard the quote a lot of time, hurt people hurt people.
Yes, most definitely.
Hurt people, but it begs the question, what if I don't know that I'm hurt?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's where therapy comes in, because sometimes we have issues that we're dealing with that we don't even know it's an issue.
Right.
Like, say for instance, like you said about having absent fathers, and then the mother is there and she's saying, well, I'm the mama and the daddy.
Right.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, there needs to be a father figure in the household, but when the mama thinks that she can do both of them, then she raising her kids in a way that's not effective. How do you tell her, well, hey, you didn't do that? You know what I'm saying? There's some things that you just can't do, but hurt people are hurting other people, but she doesn't know she's hurt.
And that's her normal. And a lot of times that's what her mama raised her. So if she came in and she was a mom and dad, you know, because that's what she saw her mom and dad did, that's what she thinks. And so a lot of times I talk to people about it all the time. A lot of times when you ask, my mother was like that. My dad and mom got divorced when I was 12. And so I asked my mama one time, I said, you know, I gave her a gift for Father's Day. And she said, thank you, baby. I appreciate that. She said, but you know what, baby? I never really wanted to be a father. I just wanted to be a wife. I just wanted to be a mother. And she said, I had to become that. She said, but it's tiring. She said, if I could, I just wanted y'all to be a family. And so a lot of times, especially in our community, we grow up and we say, hey, my mama's strong. I want to be a strong black woman. I want to be this strong like that. But if you ask those mothers from that generation, a lot of times they just tell you they just wanted to be a mama. They didn't want to have to be a mama and a dad. And so they became this thing in order to survive. And we are creatures of survival. That's what you learn about in counseling. And what counseling tells you, counseling comes from this field called anthropology. Anthropology, all it is they would go in and they would observe families. And when they observe their families, they will learn, hey, this is how mama do stuff, this is how dad do stuff, this is how they handle conflict. And so with that saying, it's behavior. You observe behavior of people. And a lot of times we behave just to kind of survive. But just because we survived that way, that doesn't mean it was the right way.
Absolutely.
And it was the way it was our normal. And so my kid grew up, she see my mom being that. I'm a young lady and I watch my mom. I love my mama. I'm proud of her. I see her do all these things. And so I grew up and I want to be like my mama. And so I'm not realizing, since I had a conversation with my mama about the reason she's a strong black woman or the reason she was mom and daddy is because she had to be. And so she asked her, I talked to her, she said, yeah, I really want you to have I really want you to be to have a husband. To have a husband and y'all, you know, grow up together. And I'll give you a good example. When I was working in the school system with these little kids when I was doing counseling, it was these two little girls. It was a little girl and a little boy. And I heard the conversation. And the little girl said, and the little boy said, he said, what are you going to do when you grow up? You want to be a baby's mama? He said, you want to be a baby's mama or you going to be a wife? And she thought to herself, and she looked like this for a minute. She's like, I guess I'm going to be a baby's mama. And it just broke my heart. And what happened is that's all she's ever saw. And what he said was that I'm going to take care of my kids, but I ain't no love no woman. These kids, they 8 years old, 8, 9 years old. But what I could hear is somebody that they've heard. He's heard his other brother or he heard somebody else saying, hey, man, you need to love your kids. That's important. And so him thinking up and looking up to his brother, he said, I'm going to love my kids. And she's saying, hey, I'm going to be a baby's mama because this is all I know is baby mother. It's not, I didn't get mad. I didn't say anything to her. It's just like, hey, this is what she saw. This is her normal. And the thing is not about fussing about it. It's just understanding where that came from.
And that's when you get into the conversation about those generational curses. Because I think, especially with my generation, with us, we're growing up and we're seeing these things. We're identifying them a lot more clearer than I feel like other generations have. And so now you got a lot of people that want to come up and break generational curses. Because first of all, to fix the problem, you have to identify it. You have to know that there is a problem worth fixing. And that only comes when you talk to somebody else that don't have that problem. Like, I come from a 2-parent household. You know, I was blessed in that way. So I can identify when something is not quite right in the other family, but they wouldn't because that's what they're used to. But you take somebody else from the outside and say, hey, well, why don't y'all all sit at the dinner table together? But, I mean, y'all do that. I didn't even know that was a thing, but you would never know if you're always in that environment and you're always, you know, exposed to that type of behavior. So I feel like definitely when you go out and talk to somebody or go out and just expose yourself to different things, that it'll not clear your mind, but open your mind a little bit to more things that may be, you know, helpful in your own daily life.
Well, give you alternative. And a lot of time is, what you're saying is so right, is that a lot of time it's normal. It's not saying that you're trying to tell a person, hey, this is normal, this is good, but this is just a different alternative. That's why a lot of times when people go to college, they don't understand. And like I told my son, I said, when you go to school, you're going to realize how blessed you are. Because when you hear other stories of other people and how they live, you're going to realize, hey, I really had a different life. I had a good life. And a lot of times it's not bemoaning the fact of different things that happen with those different people. Is that everybody's surviving. Everybody's hurt different. Like my mom and dad might have raised me when we ate dinner, but my dad might have been a tyrant. My dad might have been a person that he could do no wrong. And since he was a man or a black man that took care of his family, he might have thought he was he was this or he was that. And so we learn from different things. And so what we do through life, we go through life and we pick up pieces. That's what I tell people. I go through life with my toolbox. And things that are good, I add them to my toolbox. Things that I might think I use, I add them. I might use them right now. I might use them a little later. And other things I disregard. And I become part of that. You know what I'm saying? And so even as in my job as a director, I learned how to be a director. People are like, well, how do you do this and that? I said, well, I picked these things that I like from this boss. I had a boss, she was really encouraging, and she was a person that kind of like push you out of your comfort zone. And so when in my job, I kind of push my people out of their comfort zone, and I encouraged them. Now I got other bosses that never were like, say they were wrong, and they were micromanaging. I didn't like this. So I said, hey, I'm not going to be a micromanager. And how I became over years was that I learned how to manage. I learned how to be a director. I learned how to do those things by going through and not saying I got it all. If you meet a person that says, hey, I'm just like I am and I'm always going to be that way, to me, they stop growing. And I tell people all the time, I say, hey, humans are the only thing that stop growing. If you get a tree, you get something like that, it's going to grow to its full potential. If you put a tree by water, it's going to grow as high as it can. But a human, they'll say, hey, this is how I am, I'm going to stop. But the minute you stop growing, you stop dying. You have cut off from anything else. And so a lot of times you hear people say, hey, that's how I am, just accept me how I am. That's just how I'm going to be. And guess what? That's how you always be.
I definitely think sometimes as human beings, we can definitely be our own worst enemies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we get in our head about stuff. Self-sabotage is a thing. Sometimes we do that because that's where we're safe at. Like, I don't want to go and, stand in front of a crowd, so I'm just going to stand in the background. But if I never get in front of that crowd, I'll never grow as a person. So how do you suggest people break out of their comfort zones? Like you said, you had a director who pushed you, but everybody doesn't have that. So how do you, as a person, do that for yourself?
You get around people who are gonna push you. You get around people who are gonna put you out of that position. If you got people who are always gonna just stay there in that same position, then you can't grow. And the Bible talk about the mouth of counselors. People grow by having many counselors, many people around you who are gonna push you, who are gonna want you to grow. You want people who are going to make you get up and go. Like when I was doing bodybuilding for years, you know what I'm saying? And when
wait a minute.
I love bodybuilding.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I love that. And so the best way to grow is you got to have good training partners.
Okay.
And what happened with a good training partner is that, hey, guess what? Some days I'm not going to want to go to the gym. But guess what happened? When I was at school and knock on the door, I had my best friend named D, and he would come in, hey, man, we working out today? And you know what I'm saying? Guess what? I'm getting up and I'm
right
working.
there.
Yeah, he came in, and guess what? When I didn't feel like it, you know what I'm saying? When he didn't feel like it, I was there. And we grow from each other. And even just being around people who are going to encourage you, and you want friends that'll be around you who are going to push you to a different level. And so that's how you grow, having people around you who are going, and you find somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do, and you mirror that person. You watch them. That's that thing that we're kind of missing, is that having that person that's a mentorship. And people, we throw the word around, but I'm talking about really getting around, not just using the word, people who are, and you don't have to say, hey, you're my mentor, but you get around people who are going to help you get to where they're at. Even not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, different kind of ways. You find somebody who's where you at. You know what I'm saying? Like even you going to church and like I said, you got a person and they still on milk. The Bible talk about milk and meat. You want to get around somebody who's on meat, because you can find a 70-year-old Christian. They can be 70 years old, still living the same kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Still drinking out the bottle. But you can find somebody else that's young and they on that meat. You know what I'm saying? They out there doing those things that you want to do, and you find people who are like that so that you can be encouraged to grow.
Yeah, what they say, never be the smartest in the room.
Never be. And you always, I got this thing about lifelong learning. I think about Stan Lee. They made all these comic books, and you look at Stan Lee, when he died, he was 80-something years old. He looked the same way for about 20, 30 years. But what happened, he had this awe, and he had this thing about, always had this youth. He was always learning. He was always growing. And so I'm all about the world, and I have so much information because I'm always just at awe, especially versus God's magnificence and how the world is, but also just it's so many things to learn and do, and it keeps you with like a childlike mind. And what happened a lot of times, especially in the black community, we just think that this thing right here defines black. This is just what black is and nothing else. And I used to be like that, and I was like, well, I like this, and I had to be quiet, and I couldn't say it because people were like, oh, you're a nerd, or you think you're this, and you're another color, you're this, that. But I always had all these things, and one of the things that did it for me was reading. And I learned so much with reading, and the more I read, the more I wanted to read. And so what it does, it sparks this desire to learn and be more and to be better. But why not be everything you can be in the world? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm around a person and they have this, even if you're passionate about something else, I love a passion. So if I come to you and your passion, what's your passion? What do you love doing?
I'm passionate about sending messages. That's why I'm a producer. So because I feel like the media is the most influential factor in our lives. If you wait a minute now.
Okay, so it looks like we got to pay some bills, and we'll pick that back up in the next.
We'll get right into
few minutes. Okay, all right. So we will see y'all after we pay some bills. Okay.
SocratesGarrettNT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery. The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a...
My dad went there.
So I feel like I was saying, media is such a powerful thing in our community, and if we could be able to send, because we all love to be entertained. Okay. So if I can entertain you while also sending a message out to you, then that's, I feel like that's an effective way to send messages, because I work at a news station, and we send messages through storytelling all the time. The anchors, they have to say it in a way that makes you want to listen. And so when I get behind the camera, I have to do certain things to make you want to pay attention so that you can get that message that whatever message I'm trying to relate. And because media is so powerful, I can use that to send the messages that need to be heard. Like I specifically try to use it to bring about social change and change within the Black community. Even just change that requires us to think about ourselves. I was thinking about starting a show right here on We Believe called I Still Have COVID. It's basically talking about everything that COVID did to us before we even went to break, you talked about to be able to grow, you need to be around people. But COVID was a time where we couldn't even be around people. Yeah. So, that did a lot to our mental health, not being able to be around, because humans need that other human interaction. Right. So when we were going through a whole time where they were saying stay 6 feet apart and don't go nowhere and don't be around nobody, don't touch nobody, that obviously did something to us. So my show would talk about what that did to us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, have you had any people come to you specifically about the things that they went through during that time, the pandemic? Not
many, but I did. A lot of my clients, when I've talked to them, COVID affected them in different kind of ways, and it did a lot, because if you're a person, like I said, that need interaction, then you realize that it did. But I'm gonna tell you why, it affects so many different levels. Say if a person is at home and they're home with their abuser, and so now I'm in COVID, and guess what? Now I'm getting abused and no one is around. So if I was in school and that was my thing to escape, to go to school or go to church or go around, something like that. Now I'm at home 24 hours a day with somebody that's in my abuse. Absolutely. Or if I'm a person that's in deep depression and I don't have a way to get to those things. And the good thing about it, like while I work at Community Mental Health, we were still open. We were just open part-time. And so people were still able to come and get that help, different ways. But it affects a lot of different people. And a lot of people, it affects a lot of depression. I work in a Community Mental Health, and we had a place for older people. And a lot of our people that went there, our members, they died because they didn't have it. And so not only did they die physically, they also died, because they didn't have that communication with their other their peers. And so then they don't have that position at all, because they didn't have enough people to keep them around, and people were worried about their moms and their dads and their people they love contracting and getting sick. So it did a lot of damage. And I think me and Purdy talks about that a lot of times, about COVID and these different events come on, and we don't talk about it, especially like in the Black community. We don't, and not even just Black people. I'm saying those small disenfranchised, people of color. small little things like that, public parts of society that did not get looked over. And COVID affected a lot of people because guess what? If you didn't have the money to be able to kind of get straight, you didn't have the time to get straight. It affected a lot of people in different ways.
Yeah, gas was high during COVID. Child.
Yeah, it was. And then guess what? A lot of it was kids that was born during that time, and they was different. And so with the mask and all that kind of different things, and so you dealt with like death and dealt with grief. And guess what? Like I was talking to different people. I had a client that came in, and I think he lost like 4 or 5 relatives. During COVID. You know what I'm saying? You think about the lose. So I'm not good with grieving for one person. I got to grieve for all these people because they have these different things. And then you got people who is affected really bad because their health. And so COVID, like you said, that's a good thing because it's still dealing with that, and we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it at all.
Because it's not entertaining.
I want you to come on my show so we can talk about it because that's what it was going to be called. I still have COVID. Basically saying I'm still dealing with everything that COVID did to me. For example, I like you said about the kids that were born at the time, COVID affected generations. We had kids being born, and they would say them kids don't know nothing but a mask. They think that's what the norm is when they go outside and you can't see nobody's eyes. They think, okay, I'm growing up. I don't know nothing else. I don't know what time where we didn't wear masks. So these kids are growing up and just thinking, okay, this is what we do as a world, but they don't know nothing else.
Well, they social, and then they social interaction is done. And so social interaction is effective. Like my son could even graduate. He didn't get a chance to go to like a prom or anything like that.
He was the 2020.
He was a senior at that time, and so he didn't get a chance to do all that. He probably wouldn't have wanted. My son ain't like that. He don't care about all that stuff, but it still affected his option to do it. You know what I'm saying? His chance to do it. And so that's what a lot of times we don't realize how those things affect us in different ways. And a lot of times you don't see it until like the third of me and Purdy sometimes have a conversation about the crack years. And so what happened with the crack years, you got the crack years and you got gangster rap came at the same time. So we're looking at it at a time where we're young and we're in that rebellious stage where we're thinking about that, but we're not also understanding the thing that we're glorifying is actually destroying these communities. Like Purdy talked about, like you got different people that their parents or something like that might have been on crack or their mother. And so these guys are sometimes, seeing their mother in these bad positions because of that. But it's years later, and guess what? I hadn't dealt with the stuff, and I had to put it inside because guess what? I still got to go to class. I still got this test. I'm trying to graduate, and then years later, it's affecting me. It's affecting how I look at people. It's affecting how I look at women. It's affecting how I look at finance and things like that. And we look at all those things based on our experiences, and we're all a combination of that. And a lot of times we don't know. I was talking to a couple right before I came out here. We don't know why we act the way we act, and we act that way because of how we grow up, because of our environment. We're not born, a bad people. We're not born this kind of way. And I told him, nobody see babies around here slapping people. Babies don't walk around whooping on folks. You know what I'm saying?
We are a direct product of everything that was around us.
Yes. Well, it's our environment. It shapes us. That's like even when we was talking about how things are. I deal with things and I do things based on what I saw. Our parents should say, hey, don't do what I say, do what I do. Of course we're going to do what they do because that's our example. I don't care how bad my dad or my mom is. That's still the first woman I see, the first man I see, and I want to be that way. And a lot of times I see with my relationship counseling is that if my dad wasn't there or didn't be that person, I make my boyfriend or my husband, I want him to be that same thing. And I create this thing, it's an idol. And I create this thing that I look up to, and it's this ideal person, and it's not real; it's a fantasy. And so when that person doesn't do it, it hurts me. Not only it hurts me a little bit, it hurts me deep because this is the thing that I think if I just had this thing, then I'll be okay.
I never understood that phrase, do what I say, not as I do. Because, how could I not do what you do when that's literally how we learn? Babies only speak English because everybody around them speak English. Take them to Spain, they're going to be speaking Spain.
Well, it's not
Spanish.
It's not taking Spanish. But we're not taking, it's a way to not take responsibility.
You want to take the accountability.
I still want to cuss around you, but I don't want you to cuss, and I'm thinking that you're not going to cuss. Every cuss word I learned it from somebody else when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? So it's a way of not taking responsibility. It's a way of saying, hey, you shouldn't do this. And then, because your kid could say, well, you shouldn't do it. But instead of us trying to work on not doing it, we just tell our kids to do that. And guess what? I'm going to try. And so what I'm thinking is that when I get grown, I'm going to cuss like my mom and my daddy did because that's what grown people do. And so when I'm playing with my little cousin, guess what? I'm going to cuss because I'm trying to be mom and dad. And so that's how those things start. And instead of us working on it and trying to be better, a lot of times we do. And I'm not saying, when I say these things, I'm most definitely not saying that I do all these things perfectly. But I'm saying I'm aware. And that's what counseling does. That's the whole purpose of counseling is making you aware It doesn't fix anything, but it's a way of getting. And the thing about with counseling, it's confidential. The counselor not going around saying your name or person, what you're doing. They're dealing with those things.
Y'all can get in trouble.
Oh yeah, but that's we lose a license, and it take too long to get it. It take too long to get that license, too much work, too many hours to get it, to be giving it up for anybody. So I'm not losing my license for nobody.
Nobody.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but it's a good thing because we need that. We need to learn about, guess what? Communication. That's the biggest thing in any relationship, and it's not just like a relationship with your spouse or your husband or your boyfriend. It's just communicating with people, being in good relationships, being a good friend. A lot of times we don't know how to be good friends. We hadn't been taught about, hey, a friendship is not always about everything. You just do what I say, or you just there for me all the time. Sometimes, guess what? I'm gonna be there for you, and you're not gonna be there for me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm just called to be your friend. You might not be called to be my friend.
But awareness is the key to all of that. That's why we have so many different awareness months, because you need to know about these things, oh Lord, help me. You need to know about these things to be able to fix them. Like I said, I mean, they have breast cancer awareness month. You know what I'm saying? If I don't know that breast cancer is a thing, I don't know what this lump in my breast is. So I'm going to make you aware about these things. So just in case you are still aware that this is a problem that I have, whether you want to fix it or not, you need to be aware of it. And that's what therapy does for you.
Yeah, make sure aware. Make sure aware. And it helps you, it gives you some tools. It gives you some tools to realize that I don't have to always be upset. Even with grieving, if you don't know there's a such thing is a delayed grieving. When you grieve too much, you can grieve so long, then I need to go and get some therapy, because if you grieve over a certain amount of time, your therapist can tell you that prolonged grieving is something that you need to go and get some help on. You know what I'm saying? So it's all right to grieve so long, but after a while, you need to get help on if it goes over so many months. And so, but if I don't know that, I'm just thinking that's just how my life
I've actually never heard of prolonged grieving.
Yeah, it's prolonged grieving. That's the thing. You cannot have it. It's a thing when you grieve too long, where you are in this constant state of grieving. So you have to learn how to deal with it, because it can go into other things. Yeah, and if you're not allowed to proper grieve, it can really mess you up. You know what I'm saying? You can have like a little breakdown. And so you have to, and same with anxiety. If you don't, it always has, it goes a certain way. Like if you have so much anxiety, eventually you can get paranoid. And then you're locked in. That's what happened during COVID, like you were saying about COVID.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, because I would say, I wasn't the 2020 grad, but I was the 2021 right after that. So we didn't have no senior year at all. Wow. So we didn't get that senior trip. We didn't get those senior, all those activities, when the colleges were college fair, we didn't get none of that. And then, you know, those public speaking classes that you would normally take during your senior year. So a lot of my generation, they don't know how to speak in front of a crowd, because we're sitting here on a laptop during our whole thing. So I don't know how to get up and say this, because I said it on Zoom. Well. So when I go into a job application and somebody's sitting in front of me and I'm stuttering in front of my words, that I don't know how to talk to somebody while they right in front of me, that's what kind of, I mean, not to blame COVID for all of that, because you can still, you know, develop that skill in another place. Right. But when your school is taken away from you, and I mean, just another thing with our generation, we lost a lot of hope. Yeah. A lot of stuff that we were looking forward to our senior year. Right. And so to have all of that taken away from us in an instant, it's like, okay, why would I look forward to anything? Why would I plan for anything if it could just get taken away from me like that? Right. And it's something that, I mean, we still taking it for us today. A lot of people don't get jobs. A lot of people just sit back at home and think, okay, I'm going to just make my own money, because I don't even want to go out and look for something else if it's not going to work, or if it's not going to benefit me. I'm just going to try to do it myself, because like I told Curtis one day, we got a lot of entrepreneurs out of COVID. Yeah, a lot of people said, let's just do it. I'm going to do me. That's all I got anyway. Yeah. Well, people did. They are a lot more. That's why we have such a hard time with the job force, because a lot of people were able to work from home. And so it changed. It changed everything. COVID changed everything about how we look at things. It changed a lot about how we work. Because when I was growing up, Zoom was a silly thing. We laughed at Zoom. Oh, Zoom, man, all that crazy stuff. And Zoom meeting, it was funny. But then Zoom became, I wish I had some in stock in Zoom too, because I would have made some money. Man, what? But what happened, it changed. It changed the way we did it. It changed the way people do church. It changed the way people interact. It had some really good things, and it had some things that are different, like communication. I see that all the time. I see that in how people talk and how they communicate and how they have relationships and how they do things. And when you realize is that, and what I found out with COVID, especially like bringing back to relationships, is things that people are, you know, I do counseling on people and they don't know how to communicate. They meet each other on a thing, the internet, they hook up, or they do some things like that, and they like how each other look, but they don't know anything about each other. They don't know how to talk to each other, communicate. And guess what? When all that physical stuff is gone, I don't even know you. We're not friends.
We don't have a common thing. We don't have anything common. We don't know anything about each other. And guess what? Everything is seen through a filter. Not only the filter of the face, but also a filter of us being in our best way. We're doing our best way. But then reality is, guess what? It's all these different things. And guess what? How we was raised, all those things come back up. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we don't know who it is because we don't know how to talk about it. Yeah. And so if I don't know how I am, if I don't know why I'm like this, I can't tell another person about it. Because guess what? I don't know why I'm like this.
Awareness.
Yeah.
That's where their awareness comes on. Because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you come from.
Yeah, you got to know it. And a lot of times we don't. And we're stuck in these different ways about how we look at life and how we look at each other. And that's what counselor does. And so you bring it to your counselor. You talk about it. You talk about these different things. You get it off your way. You journal. That's why I tell people, people think, oh, journal. I said, but it's good to journal. If you don't journal, even just use your telephone. I tell people, I said, get your phone, get your notes on your phone, and just write some things down. Because even when I'm writing it down, what am I doing? I'm getting it out. You know what I'm saying? It's no longer just stuck in me. Same way you talk about your...
Expressing it in some way.
Yeah. Like your aunt. When you think about your aunt, you think about it sometimes, just write some stuff down. Hey, I feel like... And even you tell everything. I'm mad because my aunt is gone. I'm mad because you're not here. I feel this kind of way. I'm happy when I think about this. I'm this. And so what's happening, you get them emotions. And then go back sometime and look at them. You know what I'm saying? And so you don't give yourself the okay to grieve. And grieving takes different ways. And allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling at that moment. Don't think anything wrong about what you feel. And a lot of times people say, well, I shouldn't feel this way. No, whatever way you feel, get it out, write it out on the paper, and guess what? I don't have all that stuff inside of me. And it's a way to release. And the same way with guys, a lot of times men don't know. Men need a release. Men are made to do that. And I tell them, you need a release. But guess what? When you talk about COVID, what were you doing? You didn't have no way to release. A lot of times you couldn't go nowhere, you couldn't run. And men, I always tell young men, hey, you need to do something physical. I'm not telling you go out there and be Michael Jordan. I'm not telling you be a bodybuilder. I'm not telling you go out there and do anything. I said, just go out there, lift some weights, run, jump. That's why you see them athletes on TV when they be playing basketball. They be hollering, they releasing.
Yeah.
And it's not just because they just doing it to try to sound cool. It's a release, and that release helps them so they're not holding it all in. In the same way, men have that thing. That's why they have testosterone. It does something for them to release. And so you need something physical. Sometimes ladies are emotional. Sometimes you need to go out there sometimes and get your emotions out. And I try to teach my guys, hey, you got emotions for a reason. It's a reason you have emotions. It's not making you weak or something like that because you express your emotions.
That is a
you
stigma.
have them. Yeah, but you need to talk. And so that's why you need your male counselor. And if it's not a male mental health counselor, get you a male counselor, somebody that you can talk to and say, hey man, can I talk to you about real stuff? And you ask the same way when you get ready to do a job reference, what you say, what they tell you in teaching class, can you give me a good reference? Not just a reference, because guess what? I can give you a reference and tell what you did, or I can give you a good reference. So, hey, man, when I call you, will you pick the phone up? Can we talk about anything? You know what I'm saying? And be honest with me. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way me and Curtis talks about, with addiction. In AA meetings, you want to have a sponsor. A sponsor is somebody you can call at any time, hold you accountable, and also, you can really conversate with. And you want to have people that you can have like that in your life. And if you don't have them, look for them. Look for those people that you can be. And guess what? Be it to somebody else. Hey, say, hey, man, hey, can we trade this? I can be your person, you be my person. Because we all need a person. We need a person that we can talk to. And if you don't have a person, guess what you get? You get your counselor. Go get your counselor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so as a counselor, as a therapist, so you get somebody, we talked about how much awareness is key, and, and a lot of people are not aware that they're hurt people, but you got to know that you hurt first. So when you get a new client, what's the first thing that you're asking?
First thing I'm asking, so if you want to find out why was somebody who they are, you ask them where it started at. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta get a little history on you. I gotta find out who you are. And I gotta find out who your parents are. And so what I do, it's the same way. If you want to find out about something, that's why I tell people about the Bible. You want to find out who God is, you look in Genesis, okay? And then you look at his attributes, okay? So if I want to find out about me, I'm gonna ask you about your parents. I'll say, how about your parents? Tell me about your parents. Tell me what your mama did, what you did. Will y'all have a good relationship? How is y'all relationship? You know what I'm saying? How y'all relationship now? And so you say, hey, my mama's this and my mama that. Me learning about your mama kind of tells me about you. You know what I'm saying? Me telling you about your environment, how you want your... So if you're a single child, then you might have a different kind of communication there. Now, you might have a bigger vocabulary, but it might be smaller. Because if I'm a single child, guess what? I don't talk to a lot of people. Yeah. And so I'm used to just being by myself. And guess what? If I say something when I'm a single child, I'm like, whoa, because I'm not used to words. So I'm mental, right? So I'm in my mind all the time. Now, me, I grew up with 5 people in my family.
Yikes.
It's 5 brothers and sisters and my mom and my dad. So it's 7 in the house when my mom and dad before they divorced. And so guess what? I love people. I'm used to being around people. Ladies don't scare me when they fuss or talk loud because I got sisters. I'm used to emotions. I'm used to all that. I'm used to brothers. You know what I'm saying? So
you can tell a lot about a person by how they were raised.
Yeah. And so guess what? What if I marry somebody who's a single child? So we're different.
You need to know how to communicate with somebody who don't know how to communicate.
Yeah, or she used to communicating in her head. You know what I'm saying? So when I get in there, I'm just talking, coming like this. Or I come in when she's sitting up in the bathroom and I come in and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "We live together." She's like, "No, I need my space." Because she's used to that. And me, everybody came in the house. I grew up with somebody feeding my face and it was 3 of us on a bed. You know what I'm saying? When I grew up, yeah. And so it's different. I'm used to close communication. She's not. And since I care about it, I learn how to do that. And so all of those pictures tell you who you are. And also I tell you things about their health. So different health things, or if I smoke marijuana or I do something like that, it's different things. I might be a little paranoid and I'm thinking it's mental health, but guess what? If you smoke weed, you're paranoid. Weed. So I ask all these other questions. I ask about mental health stuff. And guess what? Mental health is generational as well sometimes. And so I ask those questions. And a lot of times in the black community, we don't talk about that. And so a lot of times we don't know. Yep. And so some of those things might be presenting themselves for why you're having problems because it's an underlying mental health issue or it's a behavior issue. So you have to kind of get background. So it's like
background is key. First thing.
Oh yeah, gotta get background. And it should be that way if you get in a relationship. But how many people go in a relationship and they start asking people about, hey?
That's why the physical shouldn't be as important. You need to know their background first.
But what we do, we jump right into it because that's what we do, and we're so used to that. And people can talk about it, yeah. But you look at what happened, it's gonna come back up.
Right.
It's gonna show up one way or another. If we don't deal with it in the beginning part of the relationship, then it's not, but it's about your worth. If you feel like you're worth knowing that, this is what I told my daughter when she was young. I said, hey, baby, I said, you can be whatever you want to be. I said, but this is how it is with guys. I said, a guy's going to only learn what you teach him. I said, if when we meet together and it's just physical, that's all it's ever going to be. But if you make me learn your favorite color, what you like to do, about your, what things you're passionate about, what you want to be in the future, guess what? I'm going to learn that thing because I see value in you.
Right.
I have to see value in you.
Sometimes the physical can be very demanding, and you don't want to let that go once you realize that the other parts might not be as compatible. So are you like, okay, you specialize in relationships, right?
I do a couple things, yeah.
Oh, okay,
I do marriage and family. I do behavior. I'm not into mental health as much, schizophrenia and all that, but I do depression, anxiety, mental health. I do Christian counseling. That's my thing, and I'm addiction. I work in the field of addiction.
Okay.
So I work in a couple things, like I said. So
okay, so when you get a couple that comes in, and like we said, sometimes people focus on the superficial things first, but once you start to get the feel of who they are as a couple, how do you kind of break it to them that, hey, maybe y'all not as compatible as y'all think, you know what I'm saying, or do you just try to get them to that level?
We make them aware, and then the whole thing about couple, the experts on couples are the couples. You're expert on yourself, and so my job is to make you aware of, hey, maybe these things are, and all I do is give options. You can see that, hey, this is what's going on. And so what we do, we try to make it aware, and I try to make the picture as big as they can, and they make the decision. Because what happens if they make a decision, this is the thing about couples, if nothing changes on it, nothing's gonna change. And a lot of times couples think that they can just keep on thinking we're having a physical relationship or have a good physical relationship and think that's gonna change things. It's not. Because this is how it is. It's only so much time in your day.
Because after a while, you'll get ugly to me. You keep treating me bad.
That's what happens. That's what happens after a while. No one cares about you being pretty. Nobody cares about you being fine. All I want to know is that why do you keep on doing this, or why are you cheating, or why are you mean, or why are you nasty to me? And after a while, I don't care how pretty or fine you are. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's just a thing. And so we base our relationship so much on those things that thinking I can do all these things, I can take all these classes, and I can do all these physical things, and I never have met that need. And so a lot of times we don't talk about it. But we ain't got long. We're finna go to commercial in about 20 seconds. So, so we'll hit a little bit on that before we get ready to end this thing up. But yeah, and that's a good question because a lot of times we don't think about it. So we're gonna get ready to go pay some bills, Mimi.
And we're gonna get back into y'all relationships, right?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about relationships before we end this thing up. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
The Mississippi Link is an African American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth since 1993. Significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
All right, okay, we are back. We are back.
We're finna talk about something juicy that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, we're talking about, you know what I'm saying, this is the audit, this is the mental health part, and Curtis is in the back, you know what I'm saying, I know y'all miss him, and we just in here talking with Mimi, and and it's good just to have a different, you know, and I like to have a lady's perspective and a different side of it, because, you know, the good thing, me and Curtis talk about men's thing, and it's a good thing, but also just to have somebody else's in here just to freshen it up sometimes, but, talking to Mimi, we was talking about the difference in it, like she was talking to me about relationships and the physical part and the how do you talk to a couple when the physical part starts to be different, you know what I'm saying? And because a lot of times, especially how it is now, we kind of meet up and people meet up and it's all about physical relationship. And you want to be in something that's long term. A lot of times, I see is that the physical part, it fades really fast. And that what you'll see is people start doing all these extra things. They start being in these other parts of the relationship. They add all these other things trying to spice the relationship up. And a lot of times it just makes it worse. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? We don't like each other. And so and we don't compromise and we don't realize the things that are important. Because I don't care how great that physical part of your relationship is, it's only going to be for so many minutes in a day. I
would say that, and then I will also say a lot of things, I mean, we were talking about how marriage, especially when we think of marriage, I think of marriage as a long-term thing. We're in this, you know, to death do us part, like we say. Right. But, you know what I'm saying, I've had some instances where people, there are some things that you just don't see about a person until you get married. For example, like we said, when you get married, yeah, you can be, we can both be skinny when we start out, but when down the line when we get fat, that's just one instance. You don't like me when I'm this size. How can you deal with that? But also, when we get to start having kids, I don't like the type of father you are. I don't like the type of mother you are. You know, those are things you can only see once we already in this thing. So, I mean, how do you deal with that?
So, how I think everybody should do it. People don't do. You need premarital counseling. Okay. People don't want to do premarital counseling, but premarital counseling is so good. I don't do a whole lot of it, but I do it, and I think it's so good because guess what? How do we deal with finances? Right. How do we deal with things like this? Do you believe in God? Okay, you believe in God. Do you go to church? Do you not go to church? You know what I'm saying? Do you believe that the church man trying to take your money? So I want to pay tithes, or I do believe in tithes. And a lot of times people don't deal with all those things like that. And so this is how it is. So if I grew up and my mom paid all the bills because I'm a single parent, and I grew up and my dad did, and my mama never knew about the money. We need to talk about that. How are we going to deal with finances? How are we going to deal with how are we going to deal with church? How are we going to deal with how we raise our kids? Do you believe in disciplining your kids? Do you believe in not disciplining your kids? And guess what? All of those things are going to come into play, and it's going to be, no one cares about you being fine no more. No one cares about you being pretty no more. Do I care about you gaining weight? Is that you gaining weight? Is that part of the deal? Now, I remember watching this thing about Boris Cujo and his wife, Nicole Marie Parker. They some good-looking folks now. But they had a thing when they got married is that, you know, she had to stay a certain weight. Yep. And he said they both, and he was going to stay a certain weight. And that was part of their thing. Even though they had kids, they had to most definitely do it. But that was part of their relationship. And they've been married for a while, but that's tough. You know what I'm saying? But you have to talk about those things. How are those deal breakers? Are they boundaries? And it's not a thing where it's right or wrong. It's just what is your norm.
It's not about for you. That's why, like I said, I mean, that physical, like we've both been saying, that physical is just one piece of the pie. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And this big thing of marriage and love and all that. Sometimes people just say love is not enough. Right. I never wanted to feel that. I wanted to always be the one that was head over heels. You know what I'm saying? So what happens when you're head over heels for this person, but I want kids and you don't?
You got to talk about it. Is that a deal breaker? Because am I going to be a person that's going to be something that's always good. I'm gonna be offended by that, and so am I gonna take that into the relationship? So if that's a deal breaker, I need to be honest, and it's always about honest communication. If this is a thing that I can deal with, then I deal with it. I can't bring it back up. I can't say, hey, I'm always trying to kind of sneak it in and trying to have a baby on the side. And we got to talk about it. Some people they don't want to lose that person, so they do it. So we got to be honest. It's not about what you're telling me as a counselor. It's not what you're telling you as a friend. It's about, hey, is this thing the most important thing? And me having kids enough to break the relationship. You know what I'm saying? And so,
if you don't want to deal with it, then you end up being resentful, and then you kind of be like, okay,
what does resentment
have
do?
kids.
It grows.
It grows over
Right.
time, and
As
then
I get
you hate
older,
them more than you did when you started.
And that's good. And it comes from not ever dealing with it at all. I don't want to lose this person, so I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with that. But I'm going to feel some kind of way about it. So if I'm going to feel some kind of way about it, I need to be honest and do it. And it happens. And I can't say I had many relationships and I didn't, and I left stuff out because I didn't want to lose that person. And that's what happens. It has a way of showing back up. And so we have to really have those clear conversations. And that's one of the things we need to talk about. You know, in counseling, in premarital counseling, is this a deal breaker? And sometimes people don't want to do it. It's the same way sometimes when people go to college. You know, they were like, hey, I don't want to break up. And then you know it, hey, but I got a problem being alone. I don't want to be alone, though. And then you're like, well, no. And so what happened, guess what? We stay too long, we don't break up, and then we end up cheating. And then that's what happens because we didn't want to have that conversation. Yes, I don't want to lose you, but yeah, at the same time, I have a problem with being alone. And that's maturity. And a lot of times we're not mature, but we can ruin a household like that. We can really ruin that
Relationships
thing.
are so tricky.
Yes.
There's so many factors that go into it because, I mean, a lot of people say getting married young but they used to get married young, real young. I think my great auntie got married they got married like 17.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? We ain't getting married at 17. I'm 21 and I can't
us.
see it.
Yeah, we're doing us. Because
what changed though? What do you feel like changed?
Well, people, I think, my thing, in my opinion, is that people are so concerned about their things. They want to have so much and they want to have all these things and they think they're supposed to be this certain kind of way. And at that time, we have so much entertainment. We have so many things now that we think we're supposed to have all these things. And a lot of times what happens when I have all these things, I found older couples sometimes to get married, they don't want to share. You know what I'm saying? Because they feel like, hey, I've earned this stuff. This is my stuff, and it's mine. And this is yours, and this is yours. But see, when my wife grew up, we got married at 20. I was 23. My wife was 24. She's like a couple months older than me. So we didn't have anything together. All I had was my car. She was like, it's our car. And I was like, oh, okay, it's our car, I guess. So, you know, but what happened is that.
If you're watching.
Yeah. And she told me, hey, she said, hey, you know, I'm not your girlfriend, I'm your wife now. I was like, yeah, I guess so. You know, but it was different. All I had was the car. So that was it. A car and a bag, you know what I'm saying? But we grew up together. Had in it? We grew up together.
A couple shirts in the bag.
Nothing. It was my school clothes. You know, I had a little sports car. So, but we grew up together. And growing up together, we faced those things, but we was happy. And so sometimes what happened is that when we have a hard times, I go back to that thing. And I realized in order to be happy, I don't need nothing but my wife and my little car. You know what I'm saying? And so, but it takes that, realizing that sometimes. So what I do with couples, one of the things you ask me what I do when I first get a couple, I ask them, hey, tell me your Genesis story. Tell me when y'all got together. And you see a couple, when they tell their story, they always smile. Because that's a thing when y'all having tough times, you got to go back to is that thing. That thing right there is why we got together. And that's the thing that we want. Because what happened, all these other things in the world is just distractions. Because like during COVID, you were talking about COVID, is that we realized the things that was the most important. You had them right there. It wasn't no car. It wasn't me having 50 wigs. It wasn't me having all these shoes and clothes and perfume. It was just the people that I love who was the closest to me. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? As soon as it was over, what we went back to? The same thing. We wanted to
You don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
When I wasn't able to see my friends every day, I'm like, oh, I really do love my friends. I really do need my friends. I really do need that interaction. It made me realize I was more of a social butterfly than I thought I was when I wasn't able to be as social.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back to the relationship thing, I like we said, love is just a little piece of the pie, but they also say love will conquer all.
Yeah, and it does.
So if the love is strong enough, do you feel like you can get over all those hiccups that may come along the way? Because you can't get over those.
If y'all want to together.
They're going to happen.
If you want to together, and it takes two. And so you can be all about the love, but if the other person is not about, if it's not enough for them, and so that's the thing about being a couple, it takes two. And that's when you have, and that's what I call irreconcilable differences. And, and this is how I give an example of irreconcilable differences. So say you haven't been paying your bill on your cell phone, right? And all, you know, he hadn't paid you 3 months behind, they ain't cut your phone off. But then you go in, you get your little refund from school, go bring it down to the black community, and you decide you're finna pay your bill, right? I'm finna go in, I'm finna pay my bill. I go to AT&T and say, hey, I want to pay my bill. AT&T said, hey, we sent your stuff to the bill collector. You cannot pay the bill. You're like, but I'm going to pay, and I'm going to pay extra. I'm going to pay over. I got this money, and I got a refund. And they were like, well, we're not going to do it. We refuse to reconcile with you.
Okay.
So that's an irreconcilable difference. So even though you're a part and you're ready, the other person's saying, hey, I'm not willing to accept your thing. Even if you're going to give more now, I'm not going to accept it. And that's what irreconcilable differences mean, is that even though you're ready, it's a little too, but it's a little too late. It's too little too late. You know
too little too late.
Too little too late. And that's what happens sometimes in couples, is that the other person, and it takes two parties to reconcile. So one part is not willing to reconcile, then it's irreconcilable. And that's what happens sometimes, is that, hey, I can be all about the love, I can be all about the things, but if you're not ready, if you've disconnected from me, it's nothing I can do. And so one of the things I ask a couple when they come in, I say, have you disconnected? I said, be honest and tell me if you've been connected. I said, because you hanging on, we can work on it. If you still hanging outside the little plug, we can work and we can get it in. But if you on the floor, like those wires over there on the floor, guess what?
Yeah, I can't see the wires.
You can't see them, but they're there. You know, it's nothing we can do to disconnect you. And so it's about, are you ready to do it? And sometimes people have been so hurt. And that's what happened when we talk about bitterness and resentment. See, resentment goes to bitterness. And once it gets bitterness, it's really nothing you can do. Because that's why you see couples who are like enemies. Because when a person is bitter, you know, you're bad taste in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? And so they don't want to be there no more. And a lot of times you're hanging on. And think about that bitterness, it grows. And that's why my kids see that bitterness. And that's why we talk about toxic. Toxic is something that's bitter.
And you don't want to build something that, especially when kids are in the picture, they're looking at it. Yeah. And then that's how those generational curses
and what do we
started.
say? They don't do what they see what they see done, right? They don't do what we do.
It's all connected. Everything we talked about
connects, man.
All connected.
It connects. That's the thing about, you know, relationships and people and human behavior. It all connects back to the same thing. And it all starts with just relationship and how you're doing. And that's what it's about, relationships. It's about learning how to do that. And so what a good counselor, I'm not saying every counselor is good. What a good counselor does, they try to connect it, and they help you be the star of the show, and they help you become aware of it. And they just another set of eyes looking. So if you don't put anything together before, and you after a while, what happens, you look at it so long, you start kind of making mistakes. But if another person come in, if I'm doing this thing together, you come in and say, you know, Warner, you know that's upside down. You're not like, what? You're like, you know it's upside down. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Because I've been looking at it so long, I don't see it. And so what a counselor does, they come in, they're another set of eyes. And so you counsel them, and you say, hey, one of that's backwards. You know?
Yep. Even that commercial that used to come on, nose blind. Like if you stink long enough, you ain't gonna smell yourself no more. Right. To somebody else and be like, hey, you need to go do something about that.
Right.
Because like with everything, all of the issues that we talked about today, the main common ground seems to be awareness. You have to know that it's a problem to be able to fix those problems, and then that's when we start fixing the problem, but it has to be awareness first. Right. So I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed everything we talked about. Awareness. I've learned some stuff. I hope y'all have learned some stuff.
Yes.
The lovely Warner.
Yes.
Hey, I'm new.
That's okay. People miss my name all the time.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, I enjoyed it too. And so we are through with the audit for the day. You know what I'm saying? But next time, maybe me and Purtis or Purtis by itself. I don't know how I do, but in the Journey of Mental Health, I'm gonna be here as many times as I can come. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed you, Mimi.
Yes.
Enjoyed having a breath of fresh air for the latest perspective, because we need it. We all need it, and I think it's a good thing. But like I said, always check your community mental health, and they're on a sliding scale. So even if you don't have the money, if you don't have it in your insurance, maybe have it in your insurance, use your insurance. Utilize that. Call them and say, hey, who's in my network? You know, they have the community mental health in every agency. You have, like I said, where I work for part-time, ThriveWorks. You can always call them if you have your insurance, or just check out anybody. If you don't have anybody else, like I said, go to your pastor. The pastor has that communication. That is what they're there for the rest of the days of the week.
And when can the people expect to see y'all on TV?
I don't know. Purtis asking when they're going to see us on TV. I have no doubt. But when Mimi get her show, I most definitely go on. She invited me, so I will come.
Be on the lookout. If you're still dealing with some stuff during COVID, hey, come on back and talk to me about it, and then we're going to bring Dr. Warner over here, and he's going to talk to us about it too. So be on the lookout for the show. I still have COVID. Whatever you went through during COVID, if you're still dealing with that, this is the time to express it. This is the time to make yourself aware of those things that you might still be dealing with from that big time that we went through. Everybody went through it. Everybody got a story to tell. So just come on my show and let's talk about it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.